The truth is, motivation comes from knowing your why. Hello, I'm Joanna Slater and welcome back. Today, I'll show you how to stay motivated in telephone sales, even on the days you don't feel like making calls, because let's be honest, it can feel repetitive, like an ongoing record player playing the same old tune over and over again. But here's what I've learned. Motivation isn't something you have or you don't have. It's something that you can build and maintain. So let's dive in. Know your why. When I first started in telephone sales, I was so focused on numbers and how many calls, how many sales, that I actually forgot the bigger picture. The truth is, motivation comes from knowing your why. For me, part of my why was creating financial freedom, but I also realized that each call wasn't about me. It was about helping someone solve a problem with the service that I offered. So may I ask you, what's your why? Maybe it's hitting a sales target. Maybe it's providing for your family. Maybe it's proving to yourself that you can do this. So on the days that I didn't feel like calling, I would write down my why on a sticky note, and every time I felt that little dip in energy, I'd remind myself, this is why I'm making the calls. Celebrate small wins. I remember in the beginning I had more bad calls than good ones, and honestly that was really demotivating. But I had one call that completely changed how I looked at things. I was calling a small business owner who was very hesitant at first. He told me he didn't have the time or the budget, but instead of giving up, I kept the conversation going, even veered off the subject for a short while, talking about how lovely the weather had been. By the end of the call, not only did he agree to a follow-up appointment, but a month later he actually became a client. That win stuck with me, so on tough days I'd go back and remind myself if I could do it once, I could do it again. I even started keeping a little notebook of success stories, the clients I'd helped, the objections I'd overcome, the appointments I'd booked. So every time I felt like giving up, I'd flip through those pages and it was proof that the yeses were out there. And that always gave me the motivation to keep dialing. Who do you look up to? When I think back over my career, one question always sticks with me. Who do you look up to? For me, it was one of my very first managers, Paul. He wasn't just good at selling, he was brilliant. I'd sit nearby and listen to his calls, and I was fascinated by how calm and confident and natural he sounded. He never sounded like he was reading from a script or forcing the conversation. He had this wonderful way of making the person on the other end feel the most important person in the world. One time I asked him, how do you stay so calm when people push back or object? He smiled and said, Joanna, the key is not rejection. It's just a conversation. You're here not to pressure. You're here to find out if you can generally help. That really hit me. Up until then, I thought being good at sales meant being clever with words or knowing how to handle every objection perfectly. But I realized it was more about listening, being curious, and showing genuine respect for the person on the other end of the phone, which gave me the motivation to succeed. So from then on, I started modeling myself on that approach. Whenever I felt nervous, I'd think, what would Paul do? That motivation completely changed the way I sold, and it still guides me today. So let me ask you, who do you look up to? A mentor, a colleague, or someone you've read about? Because having someone to model yourself on, especially in this world of telephone sales, gives you both the inspiration, motivation, and direction. It reminds you that if they can do it, so can you. Growth and learning. Back when I first started in telephone sales, I thought once I'd learnt the basics, how to open a call, handle objections and close the sale, that was it. I remember thinking, okay, I've got this now. But here's the truth. The moment I stopped learning, I noticed my motivation started to dip. Every call began to feel the same. We feel more motivated when we're improving, learning new techniques, developing skills, or seeing yourself handle a call better than last week gives you a sense of achievement. One day, after being in this industry for quite a few years, a manager of mine handed me a book on telephone selling and said, "Joanna, you never stop learning in this business." And to be honest, at first I rolled up my eyes, and it's not going to tell me anything I don't know. But under duress, I read the book and I found it extremely helpful and motivating, and I started practicing new techniques I'd never thought of, and suddenly I felt excited again. I wasn't just repeating the same routine, I was experimenting and improving. And I realized that growth itself is motivating. Every new skill I picked up, whether it was a new opening, a new line, a different way to handle objections, even learning from my own call recordings, gave me a new burst of energy. So now I make it a rule to never stop learning. Sometimes it's listening back to your own calls. Sometimes it's feedback from a colleague. Sometimes it's reading a book, or sometimes it's watching a video like this. But the more you grow, the more motivated you feel. Stay resilient with a routine. Another breakthrough was realizing motivation comes and goes, but routine keeps you consistent. I started writing a daily planner: morning preparation, check emails and start calls. Afternoon preparation, continue calls and follow-ups and reply to emails, and end of day, review that nothing has been missed. Once calling became part of my routine, I didn't have to wait for motivation to show up, like brushing your teeth or going for a run. The consistency itself built my motivation. So let's recap on the 5 tips that help me stay motivated. Know your why. Your personal reason fuels your effort. Celebrate small wins. Success builds motivation. Who do you look up to? Model yourself on someone successful. Growth and learning. The more you grow, the more motivated you feel. Stay resilient with a routine. Consistency keeps you going long term. So if you struggle to stay motivated on the phone, I hope these tips will give you the spark, and I hope you found this helpful. So please make sure to like and subscribe to my video, and next week I'll be talking about sounding confident on calls. And don't forget, I'm giving away a free copy of my telephone sales objection handling cheat sheet. It includes 10 common objections and responses you're likely to hear on the phone, and it'll be in the description below. So thank you very, very much for watching, and I will look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye bye for now.